Do you want to create compelling portraits like this, or this, or maybe this? Hi, I'm Chris Petracchi, portrait artist. And if you're one of those people that gets excited about drawing portraits, then I want to invite you to join my upcoming webinar where I'll introduce you to my online course, You Draw, Mastering the Art of the Portrait. I'll take you on a little journey inside my 7-step scaffold method and show you how you can leverage it to help you make eye-catching portraits. I'll cover things like seeing like an artist and how you can develop the skill, using scaffold to create solid, believable drawings, capturing the attitude and action to reveal the person behind the eyes, the things you need to do to reveal your piece in a way that gets your message across and takes your viewers on a journey and keeps them coming back, getting a likeness, and more. If you love drawing portraits, you won't want to miss it. I'll see you there. Hey everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm so excited you decided to join me today. I'm Chris Petracchi, and I'm here at my Draw Juice Studios. And if you love drawing portraits as much as I do, I can't wait to introduce you to my new online portrait drawing class. I think it's something you're really gonna like, and my hope is that it's gonna change your artistic life for the better. I've taught this at university, and I've condensed it down from 16 weeks to 8, so it's gonna save you a ton of time. So first, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my artistic journey, and then I'm gonna talk to you about the course and how it targets the biggest problems that most people face when drawing portraits and how my course overcomes them. So I've got some great bonuses if you decide to sign up for the course today. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, so the course is called You Draw, Mastering the Art of the Portrait. And it's basically your blueprint to drawing inspirational portraits. Okay, here's what you're gonna learn by hanging out today. Why your current approach to drawing portraits feels like climbing an impossible mountain, causing you to feel pain and frustration. You're gonna discover how to slay the art mountain using my 7-step scaffold blueprint as a force multiplier for drawing killer portraits, and how you can start drawing beautiful portraits in a matter of months or even weeks. My promise to you is by the end of this mentorship, you'll have the tools to be able to draw the face really believably in the style you choose and apply it to your career as well as your personal vision and expression. You'll be able to do it more quickly with purpose in a way that's clear and carries meaning to your viewers. And you'll be able to do this on paper in Photoshop and be able to use these principles to sculpt in clay or digitally in any 3D package or even virtual reality program, because you'll own your drawing fundamentals. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I've done work for some pretty cool clients over the years, like MTV, HBO, Warner Brothers, Batman, The Godfather, Star Wars Galaxies, Star Trek Online, World of Warcraft, and Shrapnel graphic novel. I've traveled the world as a professional artist, and now it's time for me to give back what I've learned. But it wasn't always like that. I didn't start here. I started out just like most of you, drawing as a kid at 6 years old, and just like everybody else, it was pretty humble. Then I saw this drawing of my dad's that was set up in the living room. I thought this was the most real looking thing, and I couldn't believe it was a drawing. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, and it must have made an impression on me, because after that I started snooping around the house and I found my dad's sketchbooks and I started copying his drawings. I started drawing everything. So from 9 years old to 10 years old, just copying my dad's drawings, drawing cartoons that I found in magazines. And then I started drawing presidents and movie stars, $6 Million Man and Darth Vader, then comic book superheroes like Conan, Batman, Tarzan. I love Tarzan. And at 15, then I started getting into a little bit of anatomy, probably drawing Sports Illustrated, something like that. Throughout those years, I made good progress, and I got really good at one thing: copying. And since I got a lot of positive strokes because of it, I never really got good at anything else like making things up. Although I was being creative to a certain extent, there was a whole range of being creative with drawings that I wasn't experiencing. But finally, after copying for many years and getting really good at it, I got stuck, and I stayed stuck for about 15 years. But just copying surface detail is only part of what it takes to be a portrait artist. In my early 20s, I got a job at an animation studio called Colossal in San Francisco, and I worked in animation and illustration professionally into my 30s, and in that same semi-stuck state. I didn't understand my craft, and it was causing me to have to work really hard. But finally, I ended up in China working as a concept artist, surrounded by super talented artists, and I had to survive. So things became really hard, and I got so frustrated and burnt out that I wanted to give up drawing altogether. The studio where I was working started an art school, and they asked me if I would start teaching the students concept art. And that's where I found out how much I really lacked and why I was struggling so much. There was so much I didn't know about art, and what I didn't know, I couldn't explain it to anyone because I'd been doing it from old habits. Those habits served me well up to a point, but I was long overdue for a complete overhaul. So I learned a very valuable lesson during that time, and that's this: that I struggle or have struggled with the exact same things you do. And I want to debunk a drawing myth. And it's the most destructive drawing myth. It's the myth that you have to have talent to draw. It's an assumption that I had, and many others have, that cost me the most. Why? Because right from the start, it makes you hopeless, or it makes you arrogant. Those are two sides of the same coin. You don't want to be either of those. But basically, Monica Zagrobalena says in her really cool article, it's the belief that if you tried and weren't praised for it, that is, if you tried drawing, then you weren't good enough and never would be. So you stop trying altogether. So talent can be seen as a set of characteristics that make a person more efficient at learning. A talented artist gets through the very first levels more quickly than others. So we got a talented artist, and they start at the beginning and they just take off, right? So the beginning is green, it's go, it's good for them, it's easy. And they get through the first few levels more quickly than others. But most likely they get stuck at something like a level 4, and they hit a brick wall, and that wall is pretty tall. So they get through the first few levels effortlessly, and they didn't even notice they were learning anything, and now they expect it'll be easy like this straight to level 10. But when they hit the brick wall, it's like, what happened? And that's what happened to me. So do talented people have it easier at the start? Yeah, but it's not such a huge advantage as we tend to think. It's more like having +5 points advantage when it takes 100 points to be good. So even if you assume that a person was born on level 4, don't forget that these first 4 levels are the easiest to learn. So a person who's a student and studying, they get stuck right here at the beginning. But once they get up that first stair step, that first level, then they continue pretty quick, right? They make quicker progress. Then they get stuck later, okay, up here. So they have smaller increments, but they look at it like it's something you need to study, right? So when you see a beautiful drawing being done in minutes, right, it doesn't mean that the person is talented. What you see is that it's the effect of years of practice. So it's not being born with some kind of learning advantage. So even if you assume that a person was born on level 4, don't forget that these first 4 levels are the easiest to learn. It's not that hard to catch up with them. So if you only accept the fact that you have to learn it, it's not going to be given to you. So I had a few successes in childhood, and I was able to do a few things naturally when I was young. And it was kind of easy, so I didn't have to work at it that hard. It made me overconfident, so I never took the fundamentals of art that seriously. In fact, I kind of scoffed at them, thinking I was above that kind of stuff, and some of these cartoon books and how to draw books were kind of silly. I just thought I could just do it, right? And that was a mistake because I was doing something called unconscious learning, and that's what most people do, and it looks like this. Maybe this has happened to you. You get all excited about drawing and you see something you want to draw or have an idea, so you jump in and start trying to create it on paper. And then you watch a bunch of tips and technique tutorials on YouTube in a scattershot and random way, jumping from thing to thing, and you get lost in the YouTube vortex, I like to call it. It's not long after that you find yourself frustrated because you can't reach that goal you set out to achieve, and you become disheartened, sometimes for a very long time. It's not long after that you feel frustrated because you can't reach your goal, right? You start thinking it's really not for you, that you don't have enough talent or you're too old, and you give up. That's because you were going forward using something called unconscious learning, and you were basically unaware of what you were doing. That's because you were going forward, just straight ahead, jumping in. But here's the problem with unconscious learning. It's really slow and it can take years to get really good. You rarely finish anything that takes the wind out of your sails completely. It can be hard to see your progress and get a feeling of accomplishment. And you're not getting good at any specific thing, but kind of good at a lot of things in general. I realized that I had to start studying the basics in a systematic way. What I was doing before was trying to do everything all at once, expecting results without the benefit of studying beforehand. Kind of like going up the art mountain. You start out right at the base, and as I got higher up the side, things got more and more heavy. It was like climbing while pushing a 1,000-pound boulder at the same time. And the boulder was everything I needed to know about art, and I knew precious little of it. And it was made up of the art fundamentals like value, line, form, and gesture, and anatomy, construction, and so on. And I was trying to push it up the mountain and learn everything at the same time. And that was really a dead end, ultimately, and totally frustrating. But what if you could take that big boulder of art problems and chop it down into smaller pieces, right? Something you can handle. And then you took those little pieces like gesture and you fired it at the mountain and broke that mountain down just a little bit. And you took construction and threw it at the mountain, and the mountain came down just a little bit more. And finally you took value, you took all the pieces and threw it at the mountain, and that mountain became just a little pile of dust, and it yielded to all your hard effort. So you didn't have to climb the mountain, you took the mountain down, and then you were victorious, right? Because you have victory through mastery of the fundamentals. So I've developed a system just for you to help you get to the place you want to be with your portraits. It's a system that works. How do I know it works? Because I was the guinea pig. To illustrate this a little bit further, let me tell you a little story. Some years ago, something truly earth-shattering happened to me. I suddenly lost vision in one of my eyes forever to a condition called nigh-on. There was no getting it back. That basically knocked me flat, and I felt I couldn't do art ever again, and I thought my career was over. As you can imagine, I fell into a dark depression for a long time. The good news is I was able to get out of it. I was able to climb out of that dark hole. Well, how did I do that? Well, getting out was no easy thing, but there is a silver lining. It was the motivation for me to develop a step-by-step system to tackle the problem. I call it scaffold, and it's a force multiplier for portrait drawing mastery. It's a series of 7 steps that provides a framework for me to climb out of that dark hole and start drawing again with confidence. I want to share it with you now and show you how it works, because I wanted to transform what happened to me into something good that could help you in the areas of drawing that you struggle with most. But before we dive in, let's recap. Up to now, we've uncovered a problem called unconscious learning that's been running the show. The antidote to that is conscious learning. So let's turn the volume up on conscious learning and turn the volume down on unconscious learning and stop wasting time. So that's what my 7-step scaffold framework does. As I mentioned, it's like a force multiplier. It helps you focus and learn consciously, and you can use it as leverage to make progress on your portrait drawing, cutting down time and effort. The 5 main points that people struggle with in portrait drawing are perception, value, shapes, structure, and time. So let's focus the scaffold framework like a laser beam on the problem. So scaffold stands for see, construct, action, form, objective, lighting, and draw. Basically, scaffold system helps overcome the problem of perception. What does seeing have to do with it, you ask? I'm an expert at seeing. And that's true. We're designed with an amazing capacity for sight, and for the most part, our lives revolve highly around this developed attribute, without which life becomes exponentially harder. The job of our eyes is strictly to take in sensory information in the form of light and dark contrast. But it's more complex than that, because our brain is involved, and the brain interprets the data based on survival mechanisms. And those mechanisms have been developed over long periods of time, and it's deeply entrenched in our nervous system. So like I said, this is good for knowing who or what is safe to approach versus someone or something to avoid, because it may be dangerous to our well-being in some way. This is really great for life and survival, but it's kind of death for drawing. And here's why. If you notice every single detail in the person you're trying to draw, you'll encounter right out of the gate the first problem of perception, and your drawing will look like a rocky landscape or worse. It's hard to overcome because it's so ingrained, but it can be done by learning a subtle shift in how you look at things. For starters, that means learning to see shapes well. You see, good portrait artists are those who can reduce shapes to simple puzzle pieces, the light and dark, big and small puzzle pieces that interlock to form a picture. So how do we do that? Well, we learn a simple technique called squint and compare. You squint your eyes to reduce the amount of information coming in, and that reduces its complexity. Complex shapes are reduced to more simple ones, and that makes it easier for us to draw them on paper. It takes a little practice, but it's so effective. So I teach you how to do that and effectively knock down the perception problem. So learning how to see, to squint and compare is a 2-in-1 power tool, because it also helps us tackle the second main problem that confounds us portrait drawers, and that is value. Value is the scale that we use to judge the lightness and darkness of what we see. If we can't judge value well, our portraits will suffer big time from looking dirty or having too much detail, and that makes a portrait appear unconvincing and confusing to look at. When drawing from life, there are a few things that need to be translated onto paper. So let's focus on value for now. There are too many shades of light and dark in the world, and that's what makes it so beautiful. The fact that we can see all of it is a miracle. But drawing, basically, we just need to simplify. We just need to find the basic shapes and the lights and darks. So the good news is, if we know and accept this, we can actually use it to our advantage. And here's how. If we take that value scale and we squint down, we can get it all the way down go from 10 values to 5 values, all the way down to 2 values. And that's kind of what we want. We want to simplify something so that it goes from complex to simple. We're not responsible for reproducing everything that we see exactly in a one-to-one relationship. Even if you wanted to, it's impossible. The drawing tools we use are not even capable of doing that. So that's a total relief. A pencil can only produce so much value. The colors that we use can't produce all the colors of reality. So the big takeaway here is everything we draw is an interpretation of something and not the thing itself. Okay, so the rule of thumb is usually the clear, simple statement has the most impact on the page, over the highly detailed statement. I can't stress this enough. So based on that, we can use the power of editing. You edit things out that don't make your drawing clear. Remember that, it's so important. It's true in writing stories, it's true in movies, and it's true in drawing. Simplicity is our friend, and that little idea is our big secret weapon. You've got to squint and compare to simplify the value structure. So too much contrast. So here's what a drawing looks like where the individual values are emphasized and not simplified. You get a noisy drawing that doesn't look unified, but looks more disconnected in its overall appearance. The second problem is muddy drawings. And that value structure, it's not simplified, right? So you get this dirty, muddy looking portrait because the lights are too dark and the darks are too light. And you get a confused value structure, and that looks like mud. So you haven't separated out the family of lights from the family of darks. So the rule of thumb here is every line you put down on paper should support and describe the form you're trying to reproduce. So that brings us to the second letter in my scaffold system, construction. That's where being able to construct with confidence comes in so powerfully. You can use two basic ways to describe form. The first one is with line, and you can draw over the form with contour lines, right? They're called cross contours. The second way to describe form is with light using value. So a simple three-step process could look like this. You describe the biggest, most simple ideas first, and then you work toward recording the next smallest facet, like the basic dark and light shadow pattern, and then get them separated, and then moving in so you can see the details, start to draw the features. Think like a sculptor and use planes. The third letter in scaffold stands for capturing the action. A little known secret is that the head is made up of 3 gestures. Thinking of the head as a gesture that flows with or breaks away from the gesture of the body is essential for both portrait and figure drawing. So knowing that the head has 3 gestures is absolutely great for portraits and jobs that demand high output and fast turnaround like storyboards, concept art, and illustration, as well as recording your own personal visions that flit through your mind at any given time. The fourth letter in scaffold is form, and that concerns relating the whole with the parts, specifically the features. So here I covered the basic skull anatomy and how to draw each of the features, and not only that, but how to integrate them into the main form of the skull. So a big problem I see here with a lot of students is that the features look stuck on the face like Mr. Potato Head. And here's 2 examples where the parts, the eyes, the nose, they really look stuck on. They're not really connected. The structure isn't convincing. They're not built well, so they don't look 3D. So the big idea here is anything in isolation dies. Or another way of saying that is anything that connects has life and tends to look more authentic. So to counter this pernicious problem, we first learn to draw each feature with solid construction, and we cover the do's and don'ts for each feature so you avoid a flat, unconvincing drawing. Then we learn to space and place the features in correct relationship with each other and the whole. So we use Riley rhythms to kind of balance the anatomy and the symmetry of the face so that our faces look normal, they look lined up. The drawing on the left, you can see how the eyes are kind of off, the nose is off, the mouth is crooked. So the Riley rhythms help to keep the anatomy and the complexity of the face a lot more simplified, and keeping that symmetry, that's like the hardest thing to do, really. So I teach you this in depth in the course. So we got to have a destination, right? The 5th letter that makes scaffold a powerful force multiplier when it comes to drawing the face is the objective. So what's the difference between a goal and an objective? The terms goal and objective are often used interchangeably, and both refer to an aim or desired outcome that a person hopes to accomplish. But goals often point to a larger purpose, whereas an objective tends to be time limited and measurable. So many times as a young artist, I would make this mistake. I'd get inspired by a painting and just jump in and excitedly try to draw it. Then after a while, I got tired of doing that and I couldn't finish anything. That would take this wind out of my sails completely. Why? Because copying, although great in the beginning for learning and training, it just wasn't enough. I needed more inspiration. But I didn't know how to venture into the unknown, and I was afraid to be creative. So I had what I call bad drawing syndrome. And that's where I was afraid to make a bad drawing and have someone see it, let alone myself. So that really put me in a box. But goals, defining goals really helped me with that and really changed my life. So what you need are SMART goals. That's how you deal with that kind of fear of making mistakes or just jumping in without any direction and then wasting time and getting lost. You got to be clear on your destination, and you have to ask yourself, where do I want to go? What do I want to accomplish? So step 2 is basically set specific goals. So SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And we go over that in the class so that you can stay focused and stay on track. So the other important part about objectives is how it relates to the model or character you're creating or you want to create. So it focuses on the creative process very clearly. So we talk about things like narrative and backstory. So what are those and why do they help? Well, they infuse your art with layers of interest that create what I call levels of revelation. And that keeps viewers coming back to your images over and over again. How do you do it? Well, you are the art director of your piece. So you direct the viewer's eyes through your piece and take them on a journey. You have to control every aspect of what the viewer sees and how their eyes move through a composition. So you do that by what I call a hierarchy of reads or centers of focus. You do that with lighting, composition, using contrast of shape, value, detail, edges. You add props and level of detail. So let me show an example. Here is an awesome painting by Robert McGinnis, one of my favorite painters. And he would paint all kinds of stuff, James Bond, he would paint beautiful women, and he did cowboys and Indians a lot too. So here's an example of hierarchy of reads. You look at this and you see this beautiful nature setting, the horse, the cowboy, the light, dark, the rocks, and you see him first, okay? That's what you see first. And then after a little while, you notice as your eyes move down that diagonal that there's a second thing going on. There's an Indian reservation. So the cowboy he's sort of sneaking up from his high perch and distance on the Indian reservation. So there's a narrative going on here. So we've got now 2 reads and we have a little story, a little narrative. And I just love the way this painting is, everything about it, how it's rendered, how it's lit, and it's so convincing. And then one day I came back, I'd seen this painting many times, and I noticed there was a third thing going up at the top of the composition. And here it is, close up. There's an Indian watching him. Right? When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that just blew my mind because I hadn't seen it. I never saw it, and I viewed the painting many times. And then when I saw that, that was genius. He hid that there so that it was a level of revelation that I could discover on my own much later. So it kept me, there was a lot of things that kept me going back to the painting because it's so well done. And you have a little cowboy looking over the Indians, but there was a third thing to be discovered, and you can put those things into your portraits, into your paintings. And that's just an example of how you would do this hierarchy of reads. Okay. If you want to get eyes on your artwork and portraiture on social media, right? Everybody wants that. Well, the 6th letter in scaffold represents lighting. And if you get your lighting right, you can change a good portrait into a dramatic portrait, and that makes all the difference in the world because it's a big part of how emotion is conveyed. And emotion is king in art. and in paintings and drawings. It's high drama, kind of like an opera minus the music. So this is where you separate yourself from other artists out there, because adding a layer of narrative emotional content is what gets people looking at your art on Instagram, ArtStation, YouTube, and so on. So you'll learn to sculpt your portraits using 7 simple but powerful lighting schemes and how to use them to achieve the emotional effect you want to put across. So I'll not only teach you how to sculpt your portraits with light, but I'll also teach you the secret sauce to rendering and composing your portraits that gives you freedom from being limited to copying what's in front of you. And it'll cut down on your workload extensively. It's so easy, it'll literally blow you away and make your portraits more compelling to your viewers, and it's fun to do. It's simple, a simple knowledge of shapes, values, and edges, gradations, as well as a powerful concept called framing, and that'll unlock this key for you. So I can't wait to show it to you in the course. So we'll go over 7 lighting scenarios like split lighting. These are things that photographers know about that artists may not know about. And this helps you create lighting scenarios just on the fly. And I also give you the emotional content of that kind of lighting. So whatever your narrative is, whatever your story is, you can use that lighting based on the emotion that it kind of evokes. I'm also going to teach you the secret sauce to rendering and composing your portraits that really gives you freedom from being limited to copying. And that is great freedom. When I discovered that, it was so awesome, because you can look at a model. You could have a model in a life drawing class or from life, and you can start to compose, you can start to orchestrate or innovate based on these simple concepts and paint things that aren't there, right? So you'll have kind of these go-to tools that other artists won't have because they're simply not aware of it. So they have to copy what's in front of them, but you can kind of mix and match, right? So I'm going to show you 6 of those kind of 2D graphical breakup of the space kind of tools. And then there's another super simple technique that helps create mood and feeling, depth, and there's no rendering at all. So before you render a single thing, you've got to know this. And it's simple, and it makes it seem as though things are rendered when they're not. And Rembrandt and Rubens were masters of this. Okay, the final letter D in the scaffold system is draw. In this module, I'm going to talk about the keys to realistic drawing. And I'll cover rendering. We'll talk about rendering skin, different techniques on shading and modeling form. And I'll explode some common drawing myths that hold many people back from excelling in their art or even from starting altogether. And I'll discuss the importance of practice using focused, repetitive exercises to help achieve and maintain your growth and get better faster. And we'll talk about hair. And, you know, if knowing every theory and technique, as good as that is to know, was enough, we could just stop here. But it's not enough. So that's why I'm packing this course with more awesomeness to get you a killer portrait in your portfolio, because that's what it's all about. All that really matters is if you have a portfolio that'll hit some gallery owner straight between the eyes, or impress the heck out of an art director at a game or movie company, or even a patron who wants their portrait done and wants to hire you to do it, and you're so good that they say, I just want to work with you. That's why I'm really excited to offer this part of the course to you. You'll be able to work like the pros do. You'll have a brief to work from and a client. So there's 3 briefs and 3 paths that you can choose. You'll choose one path. If you love drawing portraits, you can choose path number 1, the traditional path. And you'll have a simulated client that will hire you to draw their portrait. And there are 5 different themes that you can do in this path. If you want a path that offers a little more creativity, then path number 2 might be for you. That's the creative portrait. For this path, a simulated movie company will hire you to re-envision a character for their remake of an original blockbuster film. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to sign up to find out. You'll prepare for life as a professional by going through all the steps of creating a professional character design and emerge with a masterpiece at the end. So if you've signed up for the mentorship class or the VIP coaching class, I'll be walking with you all the way through, guiding you and helping you achieve this. Okay, path number 3 is the conceptual portrait or character design. You'll have total freedom in this path to create any character from any genre you desire. The challenge is pretty high, but by the end you'll have your very own professional conceptual portrait masterpiece, and I will help you with this if you're in the mentorship or the VIP coaching. Mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. Lao Tzu from The Art of War. What that kind of means is that, as I leave you with some final thoughts, you've got to discipline your thinking. What I mean by that is you got to gain control of that stinking thinking that automatically kicks in and is so detrimental to our progress. Many people set themselves up for failure before they even begin. They think that it'll take years to do it right and shrink at the weight of it and have thoughts kind of like this stinking thinking, like I'm not good enough, I'm too busy to do it the right way, so I'll wait until the time is right before I begin. Or I can't do this alone, I wish there was someone to help me. But the reality is there's no perfect time to start. There never will be. And so if you want to master portrait drawing, you basically have to step out in faith and trust the process, no matter what your mind or emotions are screaming at you. So my promise to you is this: by following and practicing my scaffold system, you won't need years and years of practice just feeling like you're running to stand still and not there yet. You can leverage the power of the scaffold system to get good in a few months or even weeks. So I want you to consider a few things. This is not merely textbook theory. It's what I did to lift myself out of a real place that was dark, where I had lost the ability and confidence to draw. They're exactly the same concepts, frameworks, and mindsets, no matter what discipline you're trying to master, such as illustration, or drawing, portraiture, or concept art. Even as a professional, these were the tools that got me higher up the art mountain, so to speak, and I still use these tools today. So I really don't know what your motivation was for joining me today. Perhaps you really love portraits and it's been a dream of yours to learn how to master drawing them. Maybe you know you want to be a professional portrait artist deep down. You want to be a character designer or fine artist, and you just need a solid pathway to follow. Maybe you're stuck in your artistic journey and feel frustrated, or maybe you're bored of the dull 9-to-5 work week and want to do something that really matters to you with your time and talent. Or it could be that you're a digital artist and you want to strengthen your traditional skills. But I kind of hope you really get this one thing. If you really want to get serious about drawing portraits, you have to embrace conscious learning and you have to work at it. Just watching random drawing tutorials on YouTube or speed drawings here and there isn't going to cut it. You have to follow a well-defined structure that helps you use your time efficiently and wisely. You've got to walk with someone who's basically been there. And you have to set realistic goals and a timeline to achieve those goals. And basically, this simple system is a process you can follow, and it's not based on talent. And that's the great thing about it. So the big question really is, how can I grab hold of this and apply it to my own learning that will allow me to master portrait drawing? Well, you have a choice in the matter. That's your power. You can do what I did, which is super slow, and using trial and error, hit and miss. I like to call it clever monkey style. You can try to figure it out on your own. It takes a long time and can be painful emotionally, and because of the time and money lost, that's painful too. It takes a lot of self-discipline to keep motivated. That's also a potential problem. Or you can do it smart. So I've taken everything I've learned about portraiture over more than 30 years worth, and I put it into my course, You Draw, Mastering the Art of the Portrait. It's an 8 weeks course online. If you sign up today, you're going to get 3 bonuses. The first one is Essence, my ebook that is 114 pages of portraits, step-by-step tutorials, concept art, and a short biography. All this stuff's connected into my life when I was living in China. You'll also get my front planes of the face made easy. It's a 1-hour lecture of the structure of the head and the features, and it's really clear and easy. And the third one, it's an extra bonus, is the Battle for Creativity PDF Handbook. This is an awesome resource. I gave it to all my students at university. It's basically how you spot any obstacle, I call them enemies, in the creative process and the tools or allies to deal with them. This is a great resource for just drawing in general, for visual problem solving, and you can definitely apply it to your portraits. If you sign up today, you'll get all these 3 resources. So let me pop out of here and talk to you real quick. All right, well, that about wraps it up. And leave me a comment in the comments box below about one thing you may have learned today or been inspired by. Check out the course at drawjuice.com. And thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you in the course.